Clarissa was sitting quietly under the flickering light of a street lamp, feeling the chill of the wind cutting through her thin coat. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to stay warm. Her once bright eyes looked empty now, like all the joy had been sucked out of her after losing her daughter. Life hadn't been easy for Clarissa. She used to be a beloved school teacher, known for her kindness and patience. But everything changed when her only daughter, Selena, got really sick. No matter how hard she tried or how many sleepless nights she spent caring for her, Clarissa couldn't save her. The loss shattered her world, leaving her not just heartbroken but also drowning in medical bills. Homeless and lost, Clarissa bounced from shelter to shelter, holding on to Selena's old diary, a precious reminder of her bright and curious girl who used to fill her days with laughter. She wanted to keep hope alive, but it felt heavier to carry with each passing day. One rainy evening, Clarissa found herself on a park bench, soaked and shivering. She stared into the distance, wondering if life had anything good left for her. Little did she know that night would bring a chance encounter that would turn everything around. The storm was fierce, with thunder rumbling in the dark sky. Clarissa huddled on the bench, too exhausted to care about the rain or the cold. The numbness in her heart made everything feel small. Suddenly, a sleek black car pulled up nearby, its headlights slicing through the downpour. A tall man stepped out, holding an umbrella. He had sharp features but looked genuinely concerned as he walked over to her. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm yet firm. Clarissa looked up, shivering too hard to answer. She shook her head, struggling to find the words to explain her situation. The man crouched down to her level. "You shouldn't be out here in this weather. Let me help you." At first, Clarissa hesitated. Trusting someone again was tough, especially someone who seemed so polished and untouched by the struggles she faced. But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see pity, just real concern. With a weak nod, she let him help her up. The man introduced himself as Harry, a reclusive businessman who usually didn't go out much. He didn't say why he was there that night, just that he couldn't leave her in the rain. Too tired to ask more questions, Clarissa let him guide her to his car, and they drove through the city. Harry's serious demeanor softened as he asked Clarissa about her situation, but she kept her answers short, feeling embarrassed about how far she had fallen. Still, Harry didn't judge her. Instead, he reassured her that she was safe and offered her a warm place to stay for the night. When they arrived at Harry's huge mansion on the outskirts of the city, Clarissa was blown away. The place was massive, with high ceilings, marble floors, and fancy furniture that felt worlds apart from her recent struggles. As she was taking it all in, a young girl, no older than 10, peeked around the corner. "Emily," Harry said gently, "this is Clarissa. She'll be staying with us for a while." Emily nodded shyly and then disappeared back to her room, leaving Clarissa curious about the kid. She had no idea then that Emily would soon become a big part of her life. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the big windows, filling the living room with warmth. Clarissa was sitting on a comfy sofa, sipping tea that Harry's staff had brought her. She felt a bit out of place in the mansion's luxury, but the kindness she had received started to ease her initial discomfort. Clarissa was lost in her thoughts when she heard soft footsteps. She turned to see Emily, Harry's daughter, standing nervously in the doorway. The little girl was hugging a stuffed rabbit close to her chest, her big eyes full of curiosity and a bit of anxiety. "Hey," Clarissa said gently, giving her a small smile. Emily took a cautious step forward. "Are you staying here for a bit?" Clarissa replied, "Yeah, your dad helped me out last night." Emily studied her for a moment before plopping down on the carpet nearby, still clutching that stuffed rabbit. There was something vulnerable about her that reminded Clarissa of Sophia. She felt an instant connection but wasn't sure why. As the days went by, Clarissa started to notice that something seemed off with Emily. The girl often looked pale and tired, and sometimes she'd clutch her chest like she was in pain. Clarissa's maternal instincts kicked in. The symptoms were too familiar. They reminded her of what Sophia went through when she was sick. It hurt her heart, like old wounds were opening up again. Memories of holding Sophia during her toughest nights came rushing back, filling her with both fear and determination. The decision was made, but the fear was still there. Clarissa understood the risks. This procedure could cost her life. But she also knew that her love for Selena and now for Emily was stronger than any fear she had. On the day of the operation, as Clarissa was getting ready in the hospital, Emily held onto her hand tightly. "You're not going to leave me, right?" the little girl asked, her voice shaking. Clarissa smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair from Emily's face. "I'm going to do everything I can to stick around, sweetheart. I promise." As they wheeled her into the operating room, Clarissa closed her eyes, filled with both fear and hope. No matter what happened, she felt she was doing the right thing. The operating room was buzzing with activity. Clarissa lay still on the table, her mind calm despite the risks. She had made peace with her decision. This was her chance to save Emily, to do for her what she couldn't do for Selena. Hours ticked by as the surgical team worked with steady hands. In another room, Emily was under sedation, waiting for the organ that could save her life. Harry was pacing nervously in the waiting area, his usual calm demeanor shattered by the weight of uncertainty. Finally, the lead surgeon came out, taking off his mask. "The procedure was a success," he said, tired but smiling reassuringly. Both Clarissa and Emily were doing all right. Harry let out a big sigh, his hands shaking a bit with relief. The surgery was done, but the road to recovery was just starting. Clarissa woke up 2 days later in a bright hospital room. She felt sore all over, but there was this deep sense of fulfillment inside her. As her eyes got used to the light, she spotted Harry sitting by her bedside. He looked worn out, his suit all wrinkled, but his face lit up when he saw her wake up. "Clarissa," he said softly, leaning in. "You're awake. How's Emily?" Clarissa asked, her voice weak but steady. "She's going to be okay," Harry replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Thanks to you." Tears filled Clarissa's eyes as relief washed over her. "I'm so glad," she whispered. For weeks, both Clarissa and Emily were under careful watch by the medical team. Clarissa's recovery was a bit slower since her body was adjusting to what she'd been through, but Harry was always right there, making sure she had everything she needed. Emily, on the other hand, bounced back quicker than anyone thought she would. One afternoon, Emily came to visit Clarissa. She was practically glowing with life. She climbed onto the chair next to Clarissa's bed and held her hand. "You're my hero," Emily said, her voice full of gratitude. Clarissa smiled and squeezed the girl's hand gently. "You're pretty brave yourself, kiddo." In a surprising twist, Clarissa's recovery picked up speed after Harry talked to a group of researchers he had been supporting for years. They suggested a new experimental treatment that could really help Clarissa heal. Even though Clarissa was a bit hesitant at first, Harry managed to convince her to give it a shot. And guess what? The treatment worked. Clarissa started healing way faster than the doctors thought she would, and within a few months she was back on her feet. The medical team called it a miracle, but Clarissa knew it was all about the amazing combo of science and determination. One crisp autumn day, Clarissa was in Harry's garden, watching Emily chase butterflies like a kid who just got a second chance at life. Harry joined her, hands in his pockets. "She wouldn't be here without you," he said quietly. Clarissa turned to him, her eyes warm. "She wouldn't be here without you either, Harry. You never gave up on her." For a moment, they just stood there in silence, feeling the weight of everything they had been through together. They both knew this was more than just a survival story. It was a tale of love, sacrifice, and hope. Life at Harry's mansion slowly got back to a nice, peaceful rhythm. Clarissa was fully healed, and Emily's health just kept getting better every day. The once quiet house was now filled with laughter and warmth, showing just how powerful love and resilience can be. As weeks turned into months, Clarissa and Harry grew closer. They found comfort in each other's company, sharing their fears, hopes, and dreams. What started as gratitude and respect turned into something deeper, a bond built on trust and shared purpose. A year after the surgery, Harry surprised Clarissa with a sweet gesture. It was a crisp spring evening, and the garden was lit up with soft fairy lights. Harry invited Clarissa and Emily for what seemed like a simple dinner. One afternoon, while Harry was busy in his study, Clarissa found Emily in the garden, struggling to breathe. She rushed over and knelt beside her. "Emily, are you okay?" Clarissa asked, her voice shaking. Emily nodded weakly but winced as another wave of pain hit her. Without thinking, Clarissa scooped her up and carried her inside. She called for Harry, who appeared almost instantly, his face pale with worry. "What's wrong?" he asked. "She needs a doctor," Clarissa replied firmly. Harry didn't hesitate. A private physician was there in no time, checking Emily over. While the doctor worked, Clarissa stood by, her hands trembling as memories of Sophia flooded her mind. How helpless she felt, and how hard she fought to save her daughter. After the exam, the doctor pulled Harry aside. Clarissa caught bits of their conversation, something about unclear diagnoses and monitoring closely. Harry's face darkened, and Clarissa felt a deep ache for both him and Emily. Later that evening, Harry opened up to Clarissa. "Emily's been sick for a while," he confessed, his voice heavy with guilt. "I've tried everything, specialists, treatments, but nothing's worked. I don't know what else to do." Clarissa placed a comforting hand on his arm. "I've seen these symptoms before," she said softly. "My daughter Sophia had something similar. I can help if you'll let me." Harry looked at her, his tough exterior starting to crack. In that moment, he realized Clarissa wasn't just a guest. She could bring hope and understanding to a situation he felt so powerless in. In the weeks that followed, Clarissa threw herself into caring for Emily. She stayed by the girl's side, helping her through tough days and teaching Harry how to spot and handle the symptoms. Slowly, Emily started to trust Clarissa, and their bond grew stronger. To Clarissa, Emily wasn't just a sick child. She was a reminder of the love she had for Sophia and a way to turn her grief into something positive. Months passed, and Clarissa became a key part of their household. Emily's condition had stabilized, but everyone knew she still wasn't out of the woods. Despite Harry's relentless search for answers, the doctors kept giving him the same frustrating news. No diagnosis, no clear treatment. One evening, Clarissa sat at the dining table with Harry after Emily had gone to bed. The usually stoic man looked more vulnerable than ever, his shoulders slumped and worry etched on his face. "I feel like I'm failing her," Harry admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "All the money, all the resources, and I still can't save my own daughter." Clarissa reached out and touched his hand. "You're doing everything you can, Harry. But maybe there's something we haven't thought of yet." The next morning, Harry got a call from a well-known specialist he had seen months back. The doctor had finally taken a good look at Emily's case and found out she had this really rare genetic condition. There was a glimmer of hope, but it came with a big catch. Emily needed an organ transplant, and finding someone who matched her rare blood type was going to be super tough. The odds were against them, and time was ticking away. Clarissa listened closely as the doctor laid out the situation. Something stirred inside her, a mix of fear and courage. Without saying anything, she headed to the kitchen and grabbed her medical records from her bag, a habit she had picked up. When the test results came in, it hit her hard. Clarissa was a perfect match. The room went quiet as everyone processed what that meant. Harry looked at her, his face showing gratitude, but also fear. "You're really willing to risk your life for Emily?" he asked. Clarissa took a deep breath. "I've already lost one child, Harry. I can't just stand by and lose another. Not when I can do something about it." The days that followed were filled with a heavy tension. Clarissa wrestled with the weight of her decision. Memories of Selena flooded back, her laughter, her strength, her final moments. She thought about Emily, how her eyes sparkled when she talked about her favorite stories, how she clung to Clarissa when she was scared. One night, while Clarissa was sitting in the garden, Harry joined her. He hadn't said much since the test results came back. He looked like he was struggling with everything. "I don't know if I can let you do this," he said, his voice raw. "I've already asked too much of you." Clarissa turned to him, her face firm. "You haven't asked for anything, Harry. This is my choice. Emily deserves a shot at life, to grow up and have a future. If I can give her that, it's worth it." Harry's eyes were glistening with unshed tears. For a guy who usually had it all together, this was a moment of real vulnerability. "Thank you," he whispered. But as dessert was served, Harry stood up from his chair, his hands shaking a bit. "Clarissa," he started, his voice steady. Despite all the emotions swirling inside him, he continued, "You walked into our lives when hope felt pretty far away. You didn't just save Emily, you saved me. You've brought love and light back into our home, and I honestly can't picture a future without you." Clarissa held her breath as Harry knelt down, pulling out a delicate ring from a small velvet box. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his eyes full of both vulnerability and certainty. Tears rolled down Clarissa's cheeks as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, her voice shaking with joy. Emily clapped her hands excitedly and rushed over to hug them both. "Does this mean we're a real family now?" she asked, her eyes shining with happiness. Clarissa smiled and pulled Emily into her arms. "We've always been a family," she said, her heart feeling so full. A year later, Clarissa and Harry welcomed a new addition to their crew, a baby boy with bright, curious eyes they named Ethan. Emily absolutely adored her little brother, showering him with love every chance she got. For Clarissa, Ethan represented a fresh start, a little ray of light breaking through the shadows of her past. For Harry, he was a reminder of the love and strength that had brought their family together. And for Emily, he was a gift, a little brother who filled their home with laughter and joy. Together, Clarissa, Harry, Emily, and Ethan built a life full of love and shared purpose. To honor their journey, Harry and Clarissa opened the Hope and Healing Center, a place dedicated to offering medical support and emotional care for families going through tough times. Clarissa poured her heart into the center, making sure no family would ever feel as lost or hopeless as she once did. The story wrapped up not with a single heroic act, but with a legacy of compassion. As Clarissa stood with Harry and their kids at the grand opening of the center, she realized just how far they had come. What started as a chance meeting on a stormy night had turned into a journey of healing, hope, and the creation of a family tied together not just by blood, but by love. Thanks for joining us on this heartfelt journey. Clarissa and Harry's story is a powerful reminder of the strength that comes from love, hope, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who might need a little inspiration today. For more stories like this, full of resilience, kindness, and the amazing ways people can change each other's lives, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. That way, you won't miss out on any story that could brighten your day. Let's keep celebrating the beauty of humanity and the strength of the human spirit, one story at a time. Thanks for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next video.